Hello and welcome. Today, we are going to explore a really powerful way to understand and, more importantly, to change how our own minds work. It's a framework called cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT for short. Think of it as a practical toolkit for figuring out the connections between what we think, how we feel, and what we actually do. Yes, this is so frustrating. I've definitely been there. One little critical thought gets in my head, and then suddenly my whole day feels like it's just spiraling downward. Why is that so hard to break out of? It's an incredibly common feeling. But what if I told you that it's not some random emotional storm? There's actually a predictable pattern behind it. And once you can see that pattern, you can start to change it. Now that's the key idea. The foundation of CBT is that our inner world isn't just chaos. It actually operates like a system. And you know the most empowering part of that? Any system can be understood. And once you understand it, you can change it. So let's dive into what that system looks like. The basic framework for CBT is often shown as a triangle. It has 3 points that are all connected, and they are constantly influencing each other. Okay, so the first point of the triangle is our thoughts. These are the stories we tell ourselves, right? Our beliefs, the way we interpret things. A thought like, I'm totally going to fail this presentation, doesn't just hang out in your head. Nope, it kicks off a whole chain reaction. And that leads us straight to the second point, our feelings, our emotions. So that thought about failing, it might trigger feelings of anxiety or maybe even dread. And when you're feeling anxious, you're much more likely to focus on even more negative thoughts. And you might even start to avoid practicing for that presentation. Which brings us to the third point, our behaviors. Your actions, or maybe your lack of action, are what complete the triangle. If you avoid preparing because you're feeling anxious, well, that just reinforces the original thought that you're going to fail. And that, in turn, makes you feel even worse. See how they're all connected? So this is the core principle right here. Our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors are basically locked in a constant feedback loop. And what the research shows is that a lot of psychological issues come from these unhelpful ways of thinking and patterns of behavior that we've learned over time. But here's the game changer. Because they're all connected, you can change the entire system just by changing one of these points. And this is the official definition. CBT is a proven, research-backed therapy. It's not about endlessly digging into your past. It's a really practical, skills-based approach that's all about giving you the tools to manage your thoughts and behaviors right here in the present. Okay, a system, a triangle, I get the concept. But, knowing about it and actually changing it feel like two totally different things. If this spiral is so automatic, how do you really step in and break that pattern? That is an excellent question. This is where CBT becomes a set of actual skills you can learn. First, you learn to spot those automatic and often distorted thoughts as they happen. Then, you actively challenge them. You look at the evidence. This isn't about just thinking happy thoughts. It's about seeing things more realistically. And as you do this, you start to build a real, earned confidence in your ability to handle things. I love this quote because it really gets to the heart of CBT. It's such an empowering idea. We can learn new, more effective ways to cope. It's not about some fixed personality trait. It's about the patterns you've learned and the amazing fact that you can always learn better ones. That makes a ton of sense for things like anxiety or depression. But is this just for clinical issues? Or can you use these ideas for everyday stuff, like stress at work or, dealing with difficult relatives? Oh, absolutely. While it's a powerful clinical tool, the principles of CBT are useful for pretty much everyone. Its impact is felt all over your life. At work, it can seriously help with performance by managing stress. In relationships, it can improve communication because you start to notice and change those reactive thought patterns. It's really a life skill. This is a perfect, everyday example of what we're talking about. The before thought is a classic cognitive distortion called catastrophizing, where you jump to the absolute worst conclusion. The afterthought is a reframe. It separates what you observed, my boss seems stressed, from your interpretation. That one simple shift can change your entire emotional and behavioral response. So we've covered the what and the how of CBT, from that mind's triangle to the practical steps you can take to change your patterns. Now, the most important part is making the leap from just understanding this stuff to actually using it. So if you take one thing away, let it be this. CBT teaches us that there is a space between you and your thoughts. Thoughts are just mental events. They pop up, they float by, and they leave. They are not facts, and they are not you. You have the power to step back, observe them, question them, and then choose how you want to respond. And that brings us to your call to action. I want you to think about one of those recurring, unhelpful thoughts you might have. Just for today, see if you can catch it, look at it without judgment, and then gently challenge it with a more balanced, realistic perspective. That right there, that's the first step to rewiring your own mind.